Disgusting sex acts, a wild scene, and extreme violence. Day 2 of Sean Combs' criminal trial saw the beginning of the long-awaited testimony of Cassandra Ventura, the star witness of this case.
There is only one person that I'm thinking about in light of this Diddy drama, and that is Lori Harvey. Girl, I have always respected the way Lori Harvey navigates her dating life, because it does not matter how much money a man has, it does not matter how many awards he has or how famous he is. If he is acting up, she will immediately move around him and get a new one.
AI says 3 months. 3 months. And then she unfollowed him on social media. And I was like, I know who was behind this. I know who was like, oh hell no.
Y'all, Steve Harvey is in full panic mode because of these dirty secrets with Diddy and his daughter Lori Harvey, and it's finally coming out in court, where they'll forever be on record. Well, Steve has been under the spotlight alongside Diddy since this whole legal battle started because of the rumors that Steve was the one of Diddy's henchmen and a regular at Diddy's infamous parties. Not only that though, but Steve has also allegedly sold his daughter Lori to Diddy for FreakOffs in exchange for exclusive access to the industry's best. But y'all know what they say, nothing stays hidden forever, and now it's all coming out in full view of the court, because when this comes out in court, his career could be officially over. So is it true that Diddy also made Lori receive golden showers during FreakOffs? And what's up with these alleged FreakOff videos featuring Steve Harvey? Y'all, let's talk about it. Well, Steve Harvey is somewhere furiously calling his lawyers and PR team to figure out how to avoid this media circus that will start once the transcripts for Diddy's case become available to the public. Word on the streets is that Steve and his daughter Lori Harvey could end up being important in the Diddy trial because they're allegedly among the celebrities who joined Diddy for his FreakOffs and exclusive industry parties.
These pictures, that's 49-year-old P. Diddy with his hand on his girlfriend's belly. Now that is 22-year-old Lori Harvey. They're in Cabo. She's, of course, talk show host Steve Harvey's stepdaughter. People are talking about maybe she could be pregnant. You know, he's rubbing her belly a little bit, but...
She's put up some Instagrams, I think, that show some clues. Sushi, right? Sushi, a bad thing for pregnancy.
It could go either way. But then also she posted this picture of green juice, which, you know, why would you want a flatter tummy if you really can't avoid it because you're carrying a child?
Ooh, this is conflicting evidence. Okay.
Now, the rumors about Lori and Diddy being involved in each other first started a couple years ago when Diddy and Lori were spotted at different getaways and on multiple cozy dates. The situation raised many eyebrows at the time because the age gap between Lori and Diddy was no joke. There were even rumors that Lori was involved with Diddy's son Justin, so her popping up in loved up photos with Diddy too just was making no sense.
Y'all, in the midst of all this P. Diddy scandal, I forgot about this. These two were the most random couple that had came about. I remember when these two publicly came out that they were together, everybody was looking like Steve Harvey daughter and him? The family trips. And I love my girl Lori, but even that, I was just like, was I the only one that forgot about that too?
Like, they weren't doing anything to put a lid on the rumors either. Around July 2019, Diddy and Lori were spotted together in Mexico looking boot up. Then they jetted off to Italy for a luxurious getaway, during which they had a double date with Lori's parents, Steve and Marjorie. The body language in the photos from this trip wasn't giving friendly family outing. Lori was up there caressing Diddy's head and neck while Steve was smiling like he had won the lottery. Although they never confirmed the rumors, things took a spicier turn when Lori was spotted rocking a big shiny ring that looked very much like an engagement ring. And Lori tried to deny the accusation, but that didn't stop people from talking.
Now, so many things get written about you in the press, but I've always wanted to know, what is like the biggest misconception about who Lori Harvey is?
It's so funny because I'm so quiet.
Yeah.
There's been so many stories that have been made up about me. I've heard I've dated a father and son before.
Not true?
Absolutely not true.
The running theory is that at this point was Steve had encouraged Lori to get closer to Diddy since he had only recently broken up with his longtime girlfriend Cassie and lost the mother of his children, Kim Porter. Well, Steve allegedly pushed her into Diddy's arms so he could lean on her and secure a spot as Diddy's new arm candy.
This is what I told this boy who came. to take my daughter out. I said, listen to me, son. Whatever you do to her, I'm gonna do to you. Now go on, have a nice time.
That's graphic.
Many dads have used that line before.
However, it turned out that Steve had tricked Lori into this arrangement because Diddy's intentions toward Lori were far from noble. Apparently, Diddy was never interested in making Lori a girlfriend. He just needed someone to take Cassie's place in the FreakOffs, and she seemed like the perfect candidate. Not only was she young, hot, and most importantly, she really couldn't say no. Why? Because Diddy had a very strong hold over her father, Steve.
Steve Harvey also has a very inappropriate relationship with the diddler. And the truth is, a lot of these older men push their daughters to hook up with their celebrity friends so that they can keep the favor machine going. How do you share with your daughter, you know? Like they share that experience now? This nigga's wild. You heard about what he did in the Macy's room to the Echo clothing guy? Like, Diddy's an animal. Who introduced their daughter to that? Why is not nobody looking at Steve Harvey sideways, G? You let your daughter date the diddler?
Allegedly, in all the time that Steve had been hanging out with Diddy, Diddy had slowly collected blackmail material to hold over Diddy's head. And when it was time to collect, Diddy never held back. He made it clear that if Steve didn't give him his daughter, he would release those tapes and ruin his life forever, allegedly. Of course, Lori wouldn't want her father to get embarrassed and ruined on a global scale, so allegedly it was a no-brainer. But here's the catch. Lori probably wouldn't have said yes to this arrangement if she had the full picture of what she could have been getting herself into, because nobody would. Before the fall of Diddy, he was known for throwing some of the most extravagant industry parties where the best of the best would mingle and rub shoulders with their fellow celebrities. There were also these after parties, which were more exclusive, only open to Diddy's inner circle, and these parties were filled with members of the 1%, and the entertainment was a bit more risque than you would have at regular parties. But then you have the after parties where the real things go down, and Diddy carefully handpicked those guests for his party. And they weren't just members of his inner circle, they were Sean approved, people Diddy had vetted and knew wouldn't flinch at the crazy things that go down.
Diddy's house. Freak off!
Yeah, it seems to be more lawsuits coming out, men and women now. It just gets crazier and crazier.
What did I say? They gonna put that 2C on you and let the good times roll, baby.
Now, these parties weren't your average house party type scenes. They're claiming that there was flowing like candy. Escorts of all genders and ethnicities were everywhere. Flowed like candy. Escorts of all genders and ethnicities were everywhere, and it's been rumored that Diddy sometimes had people who weren't supposed to be there, like girls below the age. But that's not all. When the party started, nothing was off the table. No act was too depraved, and nothing was too wild for these folks. In fact, Diddy encouraged them to test the limits of their boundaries. And guess who was a regular guest at these events? None other than Steve Harvey. The reports about Steve being a part of Diddy's freak-off circle first surfaced when the Diddy lawsuits started rolling in.
Nobody had to look at him for real. And the truth is nobody did. Everybody laughed and joked about him dancing like a idiot in all them goddamn videos, twirling around in circles.
Whispers were floating around that Steve was so wrapped up in Diddy's world that he became one of Diddy's trusted henchmen who would do his dirty work for him. Well, Steve's image as this wholesome father figure came in handy because it helped Diddy clean up his image when the whispers were getting a little too loud. Now, at the time, it must have felt like they were on top of the world, and they must have thought their secrets would never come to light. After all, Diddy and Steve Harvey have enough money and power to get away with almost anything. So imagine their shock when the feds showed up to Diddy's private homes with armored trucks and full tactical gear, ready to tear down every wall to find all the evidence they needed in their case.
This is his home in Star Island. Live pictures where Homeland Security investigators are right now on the scene. We're told this is part of a federal investigation
into human trafficking led out of the Southern District of New York. Once again, you're looking at live pictures from the home of Sean Combs, also known as Diddy.
Well, Diddy reportedly had no clue that the feds were going to show up when they did. And the feds, they weren't playing around. No announcements, no warnings, no leaks. They just showed up with one goal in mind: to find as much evidence as possible. But guess what? Even they were not prepared for the kind of shocking things they would find at Diddy's house. Hundreds of bottles of baby oil and lube and adult toys and weapons, and hundreds of hours worth of freak-off videos. These videos didn't just show Diddy having freak-offs with a bunch of escorts. They also contained footage of A-list celebrities, politicians, religious figures, athletes, and business moguls doing all sorts of weird and sometimes illegal things. When the raid first happened, Diddy and his powerful friends ran into a panic mode because they were afraid of what might happen to their careers if they ever came to light. And it would turn out that they were right to be worried, because all this footage is now being played in court as evidence. The Diddy trial has had so many major plot twists in just its first week that experts are now saying it might take longer than we expected. The courtroom was in pin-drop silence when the prosecution played freak-off videos for the jury. You could feel the tension in the air as the jury members watched in horror from the screens in front of them. According to these reports, these videos were extremely graphic, to the point that even the judge couldn't hide his shock. Just when you think that things couldn't possibly get any more intense, Cassie took the stand. Cassie is the star witness in this trial, so everything she says holds weight, and it could very well determine Diddy's fate. So the jury was locked in from the moment that she took the stand, and Cassie, she didn't hold back or act scared at all. She said that all she wanted was to finally let go of the weight she had been carrying around all these years, and she could only do that by talking about everything she went through with Diddy. Now brace yourselves, because this next part is super graphic. Cassie talked about how at the beginning of her and Diddy's relationship, she loved him and genuinely wanted to be by his side, but Diddy had other plans. Within 6 months of their decade-long relationship, Diddy introduced Cassie to the idea of freak-offs. Now by this point, Cassie just wanted to make Diddy happy, so she was willing to do whatever he asked her to do.
Then there was a point that, after Diddy had beat Cassie, that Diddy was actually trying to get Cassie to continue to perform with Daniel Phillip, and said that Daniel couldn't get enough. And after kind of hearing the slaps going on in a nearby room, he said he essentially just wanted to hug her because he could tell that she was shaking and that she was afraid, and that pretty much reaffirmed that Diddy beat Cassie essentially, and even called her the B word. And so then they were talking under the recross. He was asked again about, text messages that he said he didn't receive responses to. And then some of the exhibits were showing that, Cassie had responded very casually.
But Diddy didn't go easy on her at all. According to Cassie, the freak-offs lasted days and were happening at least every week. Throughout the freak-off, Diddy would pump her full of substances like ketamine, MDMA, and ecstasy to keep her awake and aroused. He also made the escorts do really weird stuff to her body, and she didn't consent to, rubbing heated baby oil on her, peeing on her, and finishing on her body.
Soil the sheets in these hotel rooms. Why? Because there were points where were going to be soiled into these fabrics essentially. She said that she was even expected to have freak-offs while she was on her menstrual cycle, that Diddy and an escort would on her, and that she didn't want to be urinated on. She said it was a turn on for Combs, but for herself, she felt humiliated going through this, said it was overwhelming. She said at one point she began even choking on the and again, these are just very, very hard things to kind of listen to, and me even repeating them, I'm just kind of a little just unwell, just because it's really a lot, Jesse. I'm not going to even lie to you. And she was saying, I didn't want anyone to on me.
And remember, in all this, Diddy was also Cassie's label boss. She had signed a 10-album deal with Diddy, but released only one album in the 10 years she was with him. She never got paid for the other 9, even though she wrote hundreds of songs throughout that period. Even her modeling and acting career couldn't thrive if Diddy didn't allow it. One call was all he needed to ruin her life and career, and Cassie knew this, and she just knew she had to do whatever it took to remain in Diddy's good graces. Sadly, this was almost impossible. Diddy lost his temper over the tiniest things, and if she didn't respond quickly, then he would call her. And if he didn't know where she was at any time, and she didn't smile the way he wanted to, if she complained about anything, it was bad. And when he lost his temper, what followed was a very violent attack on her that left her with severe black eyes, swollen lips, sometimes even cuts and gashes on her head.
He would call her repeatedly. If she didn't answer the phone call, his staff would call her, and the staff included the assistants, the security. Said the staff would even go so far as to locate her in person if she didn't answer her phone. And she said that Sean Combs's or Diddy's moods impact her very greatly. She said when she would be it wasn't really about her. She said there was physical and psychological abuse. Said even if she didn't smile the right way that he had wanted her to, he would say things along the lines of watch your face, watch your mouth, and essentially Diddy would tell her kind of who to be. And then that's how we kind of slowly started getting into more just of the relationship between Cassie and even Diddy's staff members.
One time the beating was so bad that she had to go see a plastic surgeon to fix the damage. Now get this, when Lori Harvey and Diddy were spotted together, Lori was always wearing white nails. According to Cassie, Diddy either made her wear white nails or French tips for the freak-offs.
She said that, Sean Combs would make her get her nails done and they had to be a certain way, and that included white nails or French tips for the freak-offs. She had said that there was even discussion possibly about, breast implants as well too, that he had made comments about her physical shape, her working out, keeping up appearances. She had to get tan, she had to get waxed. So there was a lot of physical preparation when it came to just how she would appear, because according to her, Diddy controlled every aspect of it, from the way she looked, the way she talked, how she even performed within these sessions or freak-offs, because there's even a difference right there where a session was just inside the freak-off, where it was just like one moment that, this encounter would happen, then they would take a break, go on to another moment, and that might not even be the entire freak-off. She said sometimes they would do 3 or 4 sessions just in one freak-off, and so the imagery is just, it was really just a lot. And so it
didn't take long for people to put 2 and 2 together, sparking speculations that Lori was also participating in Diddy's freak-offs. But the saddest part of it was that she couldn't even run to her family for help because they were the ones pushing her to Diddy.
Okay, so apparently it looks like they are dating, and I don't know if you can deny this because Diddy was spotted with Lori Harvey in Italy alongside Steve Harvey and his wife Marjorie. And
Steve and Marjorie was there too?
Yes, they were all together, the 4 of them.
Wow.
And there's pictures where you can see Diddy is leaning over or in Lori Harvey's ear. She's got her hand around his and is like caressing Diddy's face, so on and so forth. So it looks like they really are a couple.
Wow.
Now, Lori Harvey did used to date Diddy's son, Justin.
Which one?
As well.
Justin?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's inappropriate to date.
Is this factual? Do we know this for sure? Yeah, do we
She
know
did
that
used to date.
Yes, even her mom, Marjorie. Marjorie is as shady as they come, allegedly. And rumor has it that she's even more ambitious than Steve and is willing to do anything to get power, even if her daughter has to pay the cost. Now, before marrying Steve, Marjorie had 2 previous marriages with shady characters who were investigated for different crimes, and Steve wasn't any better. He succeeded in fooling the public for years with his larger-than-life persona, creating this image of a wise, funny industry uncle. But nothing stays hidden forever, and the truth is finally coming out. But what are your thoughts on Lori and Steve Harvey's connection to Diddy? And do you think that Lori might also be called in as a witness? Or do you think that this is the end of the road for Steve's career? Drop your 2 cents down below and then check out this next video.